The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies and books, TV shows, and more, we are looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the universe of Star Wars. And today we are discussing the premiere of the new Disney Plus live-action miniseries, Star Wars: The Acolyte, including Episode 1, Lost/Found, and Episode 2, Revenge/Justice. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast app, or on the StarQuest YouTube channel. And you can find us on Facebook, on facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear and stuff at SQPN.com/merch. So I'm your host for this week, Thomas Salerno, and joining me tonight on the panel are Angela Sealana. Hello, Angela.
You know, hi, Thomas. I thought about gasping for air, like all of the scenes that we've seen in the show, like to start with gasping for, but I didn't want to freak anybody out. So that wasn't the first thing that I did. So you're welcome and hello.
Yeah, I actually hadn't noticed that, but now thinking back on it, I think you're right. And also joining us is Mike Creavey. Hey there, Mike.
Hello there.
Hello there.
It's been a while. It's good to be back.
Yeah. And Robert King. Hey, Robert.
Awesome.
We had to get that in there.
Well, I mean, thanks to Angela. Yeah, great
Why
idea.
Not?
It's good to be here.
Yeah, so there is just so much to talk about in these two premiere episodes, but I have managed to condense them into a very brief recap that I just want to read before we dive in. So Star Wars: The Acolyte takes place 100 years before the rise of the Empire, and someone is killing Jedi. A mysterious assassin murders a Jedi master, setting off an investigation that quickly identifies a former Padawan named Osha as a prime suspect. Osha is apprehended and shipped to Coruscant, all the while proclaiming her innocence. On the way, she survives a prisoner mutiny and a crash landing on the planet Karlak, where she has a vision of her twin sister May, thought dead for years. Osha is rescued by her former master, Saul, who believes that May is the killer they seek. May breaks into the Jedi Temple on Olega, but fails to kill Jedi Master Torben due to his deep Force meditation. When Sol, Osha, and their Jedi team arrive to investigate, May confronts Torben again, who willingly takes poison. Osha impersonates her sister to gain info from May's accomplice. Oh, I forgot how to pronounce this guy's name. Does anybody know? Kymir. I was going to say Kymir, but it's Kymir, yes. May plans to kill 4 Jedi who were stationed on her home planet when she was a child, one of which she has to do without a weapon. Sol confronts May, but she escapes after Osha fails to stun her. Sol suspects that May's next target is a Wookiee Jedi named Kelnaka. All right, that's a lot, but I just want to start by roundtable. What did you guys think of the premiere of The Acolyte, a much anticipated show? Angela, let's start with you. What did you think?
I found it really refreshing. I enjoyed watching new characters and not knowing any of them because I haven't been reading the High Republic books. The world, the themes, the characters all feel like they belong in Star Wars to me. And I enjoy the mystery that's embedded in the story. It really has me hooked. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
What about you, Mike?
Ditto. Well, we'll get more in depth, but yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I just I had similar notes as far as overall. It just felt, I think the look, Coruscant looks as good as ever. It just felt right. It felt like it was familiar, but also new. And I'm going to come back to that a little later in a specific way. But yeah, so far so good. I'm also hooked. I think that's a good word.
What were your thoughts, Robert?
Well, I don't want to repeat what the others have said, but it is very similar to my own feelings. I enjoyed the feel of it, and I think that's something that's really important for Star Wars, is that it feels like Star Wars. It feels like it fits into the universe very well. Yeah, I'm just very curious about where this is going. I really like the twin storyline, and I'm looking forward to seeing that relationship develop. I think it's been, the foundation has been well laid. So yeah, I'm looking forward to where it goes.
Yeah, honestly, I was trepidatious going into this one, but you know what? I'm like that going into any new Star Wars, because like I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop and for there to be one that I won't like. But all of the Disney Plus series so far, I have enjoyed on some level. So I was actually I was very pleased with these first two episodes. I liked the pacing. I liked the action, which I'm sure we'll get into. I liked the character stuff. And I'm glad that now I've only read a few of the High Republic novels, but I'm very glad that they've structured this show in a way that you don't really have to have read any of them to enjoy the series or to get emotionally invested in what's going on. Like there are Easter eggs and characters that make you go like, oh, and point at the screen if you've read the novels. But, that's more like kind of like fun extras, I guess. But yeah, overall, I was very pleased with these first two, and I'm excited to see where things go from here. I guess we can't talk about a show called Acolyte without bringing up the fact that, like, Acolyte is actually a term from our Catholic faith. Although when I was thinking about it, I actually struggled to come up with a coherent definition for what an acolyte actually is or does.
Well, the liturgical definition of an acolyte is what we generally call an altar server today. It's an assistant in the sanctuary who, does all the busy work so that the priest and the deacon can do their thing.
Right. And I know that in the past, there was actually a specific type of altar server that took the title acolyte and had like specific functions as opposed to like, the thurifer or the master of ceremonies or something.
I think it was just like under subdeacon, which I don't know that
it still exists. Well, at least in my diocese, I know that the seminarians go through, like, they're instituted into the ministry of lector, the ministry of acolyte, before they get to be a transitional deacon. So they're still ministries that some men are instituted into. And there's like just a very short ceremony to do that. But yeah.
Is that the ceremony where they learn to kill the dream?
Ouch.
No, that's like, exactly. It's probably not the same. I just did a quick etymology search because I thought it was probably Greek, and it's just a follower or attendant. Because I've been wondering with this whole thing of like, it's whoever this, ostensibly this Sith Lord, I'm sure we'll get into that later, but whoever that is, I don't know. It's like, acolyte's not a term as far as I'm aware. Have we heard this come up before?
I think in Rise of Skywalker, they mention them. Sith acolyte. Because I feel like that Sith assassin who was after Rey's parents was one of them.
Oh, and all those weird, the hooded, the guys in the arena.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that might be right. Okay.
Like my interpretation, at least, is that there's the Sith Master, and then there's the it's not Padawan. What is it? The
apprentice.
The apprentice. And then, of course, there's like the rule of two, right? So if the apprentice is always planning to overthrow their master, then they have to have their own like apprentice, which would be the Acolyte. That's my that's my interpretation of it, because there's always has to be two. So
I just assumed that they started by calling it the apprentice, didn't want the other associations that word has, and
those who are of a certain age will know what you're talking about.
and then went to the thesaurus and said, "Oh, acolyte sounds cool."
It sounds much cooler.
It really does.
I like the idea that like maybe this shadowy he's got a red lightsaber, so I've got to assume he's a Sith Lord of some stripe. And that he may not be the master in the rule of two relationship. Mm-hmm. He may be the apprentice looking for, kind of like Dooku with Ventress in the Clone Wars. That kind of relationship.
Loopholes in the rule of two.
Yes. I'm sure we'll come back to that character later, because I have some questions.
Theories, questions.
Just a few, yeah.
But yeah, let's talk characters to start out with. Did any of you have like a standout favorite in terms?
Definitely Master Soul.
I think Soul.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
That might be bandwagoning, but yeah.
I'm gonna go with Osha. I'm really interested in her story and her. Like I said, she and her sister especially, but Osha is kind of the lead for me.
Well, they didn't really give too much away about any of the characters in the lead up, and I specifically stayed away from any of like the real behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't come in, like, I didn't have anything against her or anything. I knew nothing, so I didn't come in with any expectations. And yeah, so I think just sort of seeing it play out of like who's who, I think she's just in 2 episodes stood out. I didn't know she was playing 2 people. So
yeah,
that's cool. And they're believably two different people, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was first watching it, I was a little bit confused when it opens with May, and then you get the title card, and then it cuts to Osha. And I was thinking, oh, this must be a flashback, or maybe this what we just saw was a dream or something. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to figure out that it was the same actress playing 2 different people.
Yeah, I got spoiled for the twin thing. So,
oh, did you?
Yeah, so it didn't. I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, I was looking for the thing on her head, like the tattoo thing or whatever, like the white. Looks like I don't know what it is.
Looks like a burn or like a brand or something to me.
Brand, that's what I.
But Osha doesn't have it, and I think you can kind of her hair's down, but there were a few times where I kind of thought I could see it wasn't there. But well, and I guess I did. There was that the piece in the trailer in the last week or 2 where you see her on the snow planet. I forget which. I wish just once we'd like, oh, they're on Hoth or something. Like, okay, yes. I know this place.
Yeah,
it's like no, yet another single, weather system planet. But no, that I saw that clip just from the trailer where she's yelling like I didn't do it, and something about that. I was like, oh, okay, like maybe we got 2 people here. I don't know.
I liked Soul because he was very much he reminded me of Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
a lot actually. Where he's this Jedi who doesn't do everything exactly by the book, but everything about him like just screams Jedi Knight. The way I expect Jedi Knights to be.
Like you don't question his loyalty or anything, know.
Yeah.
Right.
So Lee Jung-jae, who's the actor, is actually really, really he's like, I mean, if you can compare to like, I don't know, Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio or something here, like in South Korea, he's a huge deal. But he said that he actually modeled his depiction of Master Soul after Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he figured that this was going to be 100 years before the Empire. So this was like one of the original like Jedi kind of like in his mind, like what were the Jedi supposed to be like? And so he went to Qui-Gon for that.
I like that.
I think he nailed it.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
I saw an interview with him because I noticed most of the interviews with him, he's speaking Korean, but I got to the point where I was like, I think he speaks English, or he'll be in interviews with people speaking English, but a lot of times he'll stay on in Korean, and he does speak English. I think he speaks English far better than I speak Korean, that's for sure. Yeah. but in one interview, just a quick little like shout out thing, he referred to himself as JJ. Yeah. And I thought, well, I can't call him that because in this universe, that's got its own kind of things. Yeah. So it's like, I'll just call him Soul. I like his character.
Maybe he'll redeem JJ for the Star Wars fandom. Yeah.
I also liked his apprentice, Jackie.
Jackie's fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she had a nice kind of vibe. Like she's serious in one sense, like she confronts him about the rules in that first scene they're in, but she's also like she's got a sense of fun to her, especially when she's playing off that other guy, Yord. The newly minted fun. Jedi Knight. Yeah, I liked him too. His scenes made me chuckle. Like that's the thing. Like they do a very good job endearing you to a lot of new characters.
Yeah, yes, it's true.
Yord reminds me a lot of like when a captain who's trying to prove himself, but it isn't like a jerk though. But he's just he needs to find his niche, takes over a new company or a new colonel takes over the battalion. And it's like, okay, we'll help him through this kind of thing. It sort of just felt like he knows, he's not completely incompetent or anything like that, but he definitely hasn't really found the sweet spot yet.
I don't know how it is in where all of you live, but it's ordination season here in Seattle.
Yep.
And so we had a brand new baby priest saying mass this morning. Nice. And you can just tell he's like, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to not make mistakes. I'm going to prove that I am a real bona fide priest here. And I kind of get that same vibe from Yord. It's I'm doing everything right and I'm not going to give anyone excuses to criticize me. So, which is exactly what, gets him into trouble.
Mm-hmm. It was a really subtle thing, but like, when he first comes in and they first come in to talk to her and she just makes that sudden movement and he like goes real quick. Like it's the whole, it's obvious this idea of like, we know what they know and that she doesn't, obviously, like this kind of thing of like, but I don't know why, like, I thought as simple as that was, I thought that was a really, whether that was his idea or that was a, directing sort of move, but like, there's been little subtle things with him. I thought just from an acting tradecraft kind of thing. I really think he does a great job with. He's really believable.
I thought a lot of the body language acting was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to stand out, honestly, from some of the other, I don't know, and not to knock the other shows, but I don't remember noticing that as much with some of the others.
And speaking of like acting with your body, what about some of those fight scenes? that opening fight was pretty awesome. And of course some of the fights we get later, but yeah, that I like that they went right out the gate with like, let's have an action scene, right in the beginning. And I like Kung Fu Jedi. That's pretty awesome. We saw a little bit of that with Ezra's new Force Fu kind of stuff, but you can tell like he was not raised and like trained like for years and years and years how to do this. Here you see Jedi in their prime doing the Force Fu thing, and it's awesome.
I loved Indara. I mean, I understand why they couldn't have Carrie Ann Moss be a regular on the entire show, but I was already a Carrie-Anne Moss fan coming into it, but I just loved her facial expressions and like the intensity that she brought to it. Like it begins with this intense peacefulness. Like it's peaceful, but it's intense. You're feeling it. It's like there is a really
I'm so serious about this
powerful piece moving on here, and yeah, no, that fight scene was fantastic. Getting into the later action scenes, those were exciting as well. And I don't know, it's gonna be fun for fight coordinators and stunt people throughout this show, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and can I just say, I looked up all the main characters' names, tried to see like if we could get any clues as to their characters. Yeah. For Indara, there's a Sanskrit name, Indira, which means beauty, splendor. The Lord Indra is considered the bravest of all the gods. But then I thought it sounded very Japanese, so I looked up in Japan. There is, in Buddhism, there's an Indra, which is a guardian deity. So I thought that was kind of like, if I could think of someone who would be like intensely peaceful, like a guardian deity, like that sounds pretty close. So I just thought that was cool to kind of throw in there.
And Angela, I think you had did you do any more research into character names?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, maybe just some that we've talked about. Osha, and then her last name was Anastasia. So Osha actually is Sanskrit for burning, and Anastasia is Hindu meaning selfless, which is interesting.
And burning, that's with the fire in her backstory.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. May is related to Maya, which is a Roman goddess of motherhood and of growth or becoming larger or greater. So to me, that was resonating with May wanting to, assumingly wanting to ascend through the ranks of the Sith, perhaps, becoming greater. Jord is actually a German form of the name Jordan, which comes from Hebrew, meaning to descend. Like if you think of the Jordan River, it goes down into the Dead Sea. So to descend. I'm not sure where that fits in with this character, but Sol, of course, some people have said in Spanish it means sun. But for me, I was thinking because of Lee Jung-jae, I was thinking of South Korea. Of course, the city of Seoul is the capital city. So I don't know if they changed the name. They had the name of the character or it just kind of fit. So that was interesting. Jackie is a weird one. I don't know where this fits in because, Jackie comes from John, right? Which is God is gracious. Or it could mean holder of the heel, which
she is very short.
It also could mean supplanter. So maybe we have to watch out for Jackie. I don't know. And then we were asking about Chimera. So that one really stood out to me because I thought of the Chimera from Greek mythology, which is like that fire-breathing monster of many different animals. But Chimera is also used to mean that like a thing that you hope for or you wish for, but it's actually impossible to achieve. It's like illusory. So I think we'll talk about him, but anyway, I'll leave it there for now as far as the names, but that was a pretty interesting little exercise to do.
Lest we forget too, it's also Thrawn's ship.
The Chimera.
So it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Did you find anything for Vernestra?
Yeah.
I forgot about her.
So for Vernestra, I thought of the root being Vern or Vernon, which that means a place of alder trees, and alder trees symbolize strength, protection, determination and confidence. So at least I haven't read the books, but in this first episode and the second episode as well, she's very much into, it seems like, the bureaucracy, right? Making decisions with meaningful discussion.
As soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's very prequels Jedi Council. Let's not go there.
She's like, now, excuse me, there's apparently some things starting to be discussed in the Senate chambers about taxation of trade federation. I'm like, no. We're not there yet.
We did get the trade federation.
I know. I was like, oh boy, here they come.
And a name drop for the corporate sector from the Legends books.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. I liked the world building in this too. Again, like there's so much that's new, like all the planets except for Coruscant are new and unfamiliar. But they don't hit you with so much that you're overloaded, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that a lot of these planets that they go to are clearly, okay, like not entirely like backwater, but they're not, you can tell that I'm like, okay, we're not in the core.
Right.
Right here. You know, this is, you know, Jedi territory. And one thing that they have pulled from the recent books take place in this time period is the sort of outpost temples that there are on various planets, kind of Jedi outposts where they like have a presence, you know, where it's almost like Coruscant is like the mother house, you know, of like a religious order. And then like they have various, you know,
and they hinted at that a little bit in, you know, Rebels got into that a little bit, you know, with, I mean, they're all, you know, wiped out and everything. But, and then I think, what was the other one? Well, Rogue One, you know, with whatever was going on Jakku, or not Jakku, Jeddah, you know, so that was, that'd be, you know, Guardians of the Wills and all that kind of stuff. That'd be cool if I don't know, if there's anything remotely approximating that might be, you know, maybe not in this show, but I'm like, I haven't followed the High Republic stuff too much, but, yeah, there's a lot to explore with it, you know, like this to fill in some of these gaps and connect it.
I also liked that since either not everyone can afford or wants to spend the money for a fleet of astromechs, they can use real people to go on the outside of the ship and fix stuff, you know, for a good old fashioned spacewalk. Mech techs, is that what they're called?
Mech
yeah. I like that concept.
Granted, their spacewalk wasn't as cool as Ahsoka's, but still.
It's very hard to top that in terms of spacewalk.
She knows. She knows that.
It's one of the themes that I am really interested in seeing more development on is this relationship between droids and organics. In the Star Wars universe, you know, droids are seen as disposable and explicitly so here. And to use a human to do droid work, you know, that the Republic has mandated that only droids do exterior work on ships, presumably for safety reasons, but it's I want to see that dynamic developed more.
Yeah, I like when they show where the technology. I like when they actually use the technology in Star Wars and show how it's like affecting the everyday lives of people, and when it's not just window dressing, you know. And
I also loved that she said, like, I trained to be a Jedi, and when I left, those skills aren't exactly transferable. I was like, says all my friends who studied philosophy and theology. Like, it is
or
so hard to find a job.
Like me. Yeah. No transferable skill. Yeah.
I found that very relatable. So that was great. But yeah, it's kind of sad because she was trained to be a Jedi, and now she's in this job where people aren't even supposed to be doing it. It's so like low level, you know?
But it's a paycheck.
Yeah,
that's right.
I just like that, you know, with with all these new characters, I think I kind of mentioned this before, that they do a very good job of showing you where each character is coming from, and in a few short lines of dialogue or visuals on screen, you immediately know where this character is coming from and where they're at as the story begins. And there's one character I almost forgot about, speaking of droids, is Pip. We have to have a cute droid, I like that he's a droid, but he's also a multi-tool.
It's like a Swiss Army knife droid.
Yeah.
Like if my Gerber was sentient, which I don't know that that's a good idea. Like you think of when R2 gets fried and everything just comes out of him and it's like spinning around, and I was like, oh man, let's stand back. Like just a nightmare.
And I guess Pip can be like a blaster or something too. Like when Osha takes it out on Chimere, I was like, wow. I mean, he could be basically anything that you need, like in any situation. I really want one.
I like the first thing she says to Pip is like, Pip, inside voice.
Yes, that was good.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to remember if I honestly can't remember if I've been on an episode of this show since our son was born. But he's doing great, by the way. He's 6 months this week, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
But he, of course, I like very early on, I got him a little plush Wicket, because I'm like, we're going to start this early, And so he's like kicking around on his little playmat, and I hold it up, and I was like, look, Danny, and I'm shaking. It's like, do you know what this is? And my wife's expecting me to say it's an Ewok. I said, this is a marketing technique. This is like, to quote Spaceballs, merchandising. Absolutely. Like we need space teddy bears, like absolutely.
The flamethrower.
But it's funny because I never it never bothers me though. Like I see Pip and right away I'm like, yep. I'm going to have that. That's going to be on the wall here somewhere.
I also liked she's arrested by Jord and Jord's Padawan, Osha is, and they put her on a prison transport back to Coruscant that is crewed entirely by droids. I like that that ship could have human pilots, but the chairs double as like automatic.
It's very
pilot
efficient.
Droid.
Yeah,
it's very
awesome.
efficient. Yeah. And then there's like this security droid who was giving me real old school Cylon vibes.
Yeah. Totally.
I was getting the black hole vibes, Maximilian.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie.
Oh, okay. It's got some, it's been dated in a lot of ways, but it's a classic. It's kind of it's well worth seeing. Really great design, some great character work in it, even if the premise and the plot is completely unbelievable.
Oh, well, that's like a lot of like sci-fi, I think, from that era, right?
Yeah, probably.
But
that's fair.
Just the way the droid kind of clunked around and his deep voice, like I was expecting him to say, by your command, like the whole Cylon thing. And I think even his helmet was I don't think it was exactly the same, but I was like, kind of looked like an old school Cylon.
Pretty close.
Yeah. But that whole scene with the escape, I thought that was a well done scene. I didn't know what was going to happen next throughout the scene, and there's a lot going on, the different prisoners, and it was great.
Probably the most important, or one of the most important things or reveals from that, of course, is the she's suffering the same force atrophy that Obi-Wan was, in the series, right? Because she's trying to use the force to get Pip, and it just doesn't work. There's a little bit of meanwhile, her sister's doing just fine. I'm going to have to step it up a little bit here. You're going to need some training.
I thought the most important thing in that scene was that she says to the other prisoners that she still has faith in the Jedi.
Yeah.
And
yes.
She, even though, look, she's she's literally a prisoner, wrongly accused of murder. And she says she has faith in the Jedi. So that says a lot about her character, I think.
And I'm glad because like I'm tired of like a lot of characters being very cynical about the Jedi that I've seen in recent stuff. So I actually thought that was refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think this scene takes place before the one we just spoke about, but when Master Saul is introduced and he's teaching the younglings, I like that like most of what the younglings come up with is metaphors for the Force are also common metaphors for God. You know, an ocean, you know, like as we're like a drop in the ocean compared to God, or life, you know, God is life, you know, or fire, you know, the not only the fire of Pentecost, but the fire of the burning bush, which burns but doesn't consume.
The pillar of fire in the desert, and you know,
So I thought that was very interesting, and I just like that scene. It establishes Saul as also this very wise, compassionate, empathetic Jedi.
Yeah. A couple of times throughout, I guess, these 2 episodes, he mentions having faith. And so I thought that was also a tie-in to Osha, who was his Padawan, right? That she said, I still have faith in the Jedi. And then Master Saul saying repeatedly to have faith. So faith must be really important for his, I guess, philosophy of being a Jedi. It's interesting.
I love his, that I don't know if it was the first or not. I feel like it was like the first real kind of raw demonstration of his power when he's just not, like when it's not time to screw around. Like when he walks up to the guy who's mouthing off, like when they rounded up all the people from the ship except her, and he's just like, clear your mind and tell me what happened. He's like, she saved me and I betrayed her. He's like, all right.
I'm like, did you just cure that guy's mental illness with like
oh
a
my
force?
gosh,
I
I feel like I've had some confessors who basically did something similar to me. They're like, oh well, Father, I just this and that. He's like, that's not what happened. Tell me. I was like, oh yeah, I did this. He's like Padre Pio or something, you know. What's that Force power? I mean, I don't think it was it a mind trick, or it seemed more like a tell me the truth, like I don't know,
it's kind of mind, like a subset of the mind trick.
Took it as a variation on that.
There was something funny, by the way, that reminds me. I read 1 or 2 of the High Republic novels, and there's a character, this would be I think probably 150 years or so before this, or 200 years before this, where they just mention in passing, you know, that so and so, you know, like used the such and such, you know, Force technique, and you know, other characters, like they say that they couldn't really stand like his diminishing of it by referring to it as the mind trick. Or they somehow like they give a backstory for like, you know, it was some Jedi, you know, joking around, and like he nicknamed it the mind trick. They're like, don't call it that. It's not a trick. That's what it is. It's a thing.
And then it just caught on. It's like the Star Wars version of Bodie McBoatface. You know, it just becomes a meme and then catches on. You know,
Jedi memes.
Oh my gosh!
# mind trick.
It's a mind illusion.
Actually, it's a mind illusion. Yeah. But yeah, she ends up in that crash, and you know the ship gets cracked up. There's no way she's getting off this ice planet, and there's the very unsettling Force vision sequence where she learns that her twin May is still alive.
Did you guys interpret that as like a Kylo Ren, Rey type of Force connection, rather than simply like her seeing things in the Force, like Rey saw stuff in the Force even though she was awake? Like, how did you interpret that?
I don't think we have enough information yet. I mean, it very well could be like a direct connection between them, or it could be a vision of the past, or in some sense, maybe even of the future. I think it dramatically did the job of establishing the connection and her backstory and what is going on between them. But in terms of like the mechanics of how it works, that's one of the things I'm kind of curious to see. Is that going to be sort of played out more?
It just seemed like she knew, when she told Master Soul May's alive. I was like, oh, well, she already knew that, even though she hadn't literally seen adult May in front of her face. But she had talked to her sister, did you kill Indara, So it was like, to me, that was almost like a communication type of situation rather than simply thinking about her past. So,
but I wonder if it was a subconscious communication and if May was even aware of it, because later she seems very surprised to see Osha alive, and she reacts very negatively when Soul reveals that to her.
Yeah,
so
Soul
I wonder
says
if it's almost
May,
like
your sister's alive, and she's like, you're lying. So we don't know, like, based on what Soul originally said, like, he said that we were there the night that her sister started the fire that killed their whole village and all this. But yeah, there wasn't anything said, I think, before that gave me the impression that May thought Osha was dead. So, yeah, I think I've heard some rumors that episode 3 is going to kind of give us some more backstory of what happened with that, just based on how they tend to, it seems like they tend to put certain things in the trailers. From those first few episodes, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I liked the rescue scene, or the she gets apprehended again, but also rescued by Saul, Yeah. And I liked that reunion, and I like that he's just immediately like, I believe you. Like, we don't waste any time. I hate when shows do this, when they drag out the thing where like the characters, no, I don't believe you. And they spend like entire episodes not believing the protagonist. That's just a pet peeve of mine. It feels like wasted time.
Well, you get a little Anakin Ahsoka vibe here with when she was falsely accused, but it's not going as there's more of a, well, this was a little easier to establish, like, oh no, whoops, twin. Like it wasn't that easy with the whole Barriss and Ahsoka thing.
I was told by a friend that this falsely accused twin thing is apparently a trope in some martial arts movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which this show seems to be heavily inspired by.
I think they did a little in Double Impact, but I don't really want to talk about that too much because that movie's weird. Did you guys ever see that Jean-Claude Van Damme?
We never talk about weird stuff here.
Jean-Claude Van Damme playing himself as his two brothers. It's not it's more of a it's not a film. It's a movie. I think there's a difference. It's a flick. Yeah, it's from the 90s. It was bizarre.
But twins is very Star Wars anyway.
Twins. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
right. But this time we have identical twins, rather than fraternal.
I had notes on this because I was talking, funny enough, like totally separate. I had seen the show, so it was within a day or two of that. So but I wasn't consciously connecting it to this conversation I was having with my wife, where we were it was a faith conversation, about kind of much bigger picture stuff. But I forget how it came up. But I said, isn't it neat, like, my family's been doing the Ancestry.com stuff lately, like the DNA, estimates and stuff. And I thought it was so interesting that, if you do, like if two identical twins, not fraternal, obviously, but like two identical twins do the Ancestry test, like they're more or less clones of each other, And so but what's amazing to me is how like, even to that level, and how this really flies in the face of the materialistic kind of worldview. Like, if it's all just matter, how can identical twins be so different? Because they are. I mean, I've known several of them. Sometimes they're similar, but I just thought, like, I think this is a really neat idea to pursue this in a show, because I think there's a lot of ongoing conversation to have about the amazing reality of just how unique your soul is, and how you are completely, we all have influences, but like at the end of the day, there's a certain degree of culpability that every one of us has, right, for the path we choose. And and it's mysterious, man. There's so many, you could have two people from the exact same house, end up even to the level of identical twins that can end up on these very divergent paths. It's just, I think, a really fascinating thing to meditate on.
Yeah, and speaking of May's path, she's been tasked by this mysterious Master with killing four specific Jedi who were all posted to her home planet when this mysterious fire started. And she has to kill one of her targets without a weapon, at least one.
Was that like the rite of passage? Is that kind of what that's about, I guess? Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she has that very specific phrase that she repeats, attack me with all your strength.
Yeah.
There's something going on here, and it has a very initiatory feel to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to be intentionally odd sounding for a Jedi to have somebody approach them that way, because it seems that her beef is that at least Indara did attack her or someone who was important to her family. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next couple episodes, maybe. But my suspicion is that those words were chosen very particularly for her approach.
Right, and she says attack, but as we know, Yoda says Jedi use the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
And Indara said, a Jedi does not attack someone unarmed.
Mm-hmm.
And May immediately replies, "That's not true."
Right.
Or
yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a sense of this is yes, you personally do. It was an accusation.
But she did in the second episode, she moves on to her next target, and so she's on this planet. I thought I wrote it down, but
Olega,
yeah, where she has to break into the little satellite temple, and I like the older version of the Jabba's palace doorbell droid thing. That was neat. Yeah. That she is able to disable with the little disc thing that she throws on it. But yeah, she's after this Jedi called Master Torban, and she finds him, and he turns out to be in like basically a self-induced Force coma. I don't know how he's... They say he doesn't speak. I assume he doesn't eat or drink. Like, because it doesn't seem like he's come out of this state for a long time. And he's put up a barrier, an invisible barrier around himself. So there's this very fun scene where May's coming from all angles trying to attack this guy and just like falling to the floor because of the invisible wall around him.
Did it remind you guys of the wall thing around Grogu?
Yes.
When he's in that, like on that rock, and Mando can't get to him.
It's like the Force is so strong with this person, their connection is so strong that it just creates this force field around them. Yeah.
Yeah.
A force field?
There it is.
Force field, yeah.
That's so cool.
So she can't kill him, so then she goes to...
Chimere.
I don't know what yeah, but I don't know what his role at Chimere's role really is. He's taken over that apothecary shop, but I don't think that's his normal kind of job. Like, is he a fellow acolyte? Like, what is he?
Some people have speculated he's the Sith Lord and she doesn't know it.
That's what I think. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is.
And I wonder, like, I don't know who the Sith Lord is, if they're going to make him, like, there's all this speculation that it might be Darth Tenebrous, Sidious's master, because the timing here might be a little too early for it to be Sidious.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Tenebrous would be Plagueis' master.
Or Plagueis' master, I meant, sorry, yeah. And then I think they, because there's also, all the speculation, as it always is, right, of like, well, they made Tenebrous, they made him canon in a Lego release, like, okay, fair enough. And I guess Leslie Headland is a big fan of Legends and stuff, and, apparently is well-versed in all of that, and she's a fan of the Plagueis novel also. So I don't know. I feel like eventually, my gut tells me eventually Star Wars has to bring Plagueis a little more directly into the story somehow. I just think you're missing an enormous opportunity, but I also think at the timeline here it might be a little too early. So, so there's speculation about
this
that.
This is not a story that Disney would tell you.
Right. Yeah. So that's, but I've been wondering about like somebody even pointed out like that helmet, we haven't seen it yet, but that helmet looks like it has teeth on it. But if you look closely, it also looks like it's not dissimilar to like a respirator kind of tube.
Yeah.
You know, and there's all this speculation, but you know, but I've wondered, like, it's weird because you can't find, I haven't been able to find anything in any cast list or anything, like, you know, looking at the episodes, like, who's that voice? Like, none of it. Even the caption, it says male voice. And I'm like, I don't know. Nobody knows. It's, you know, it could be anybody, you know?
If Chimera is the Sith Lord, then he's kind of pulling a Darth Jar Jar, isn't he? Well, like he plays the fool on the outside, but meanwhile he's like this super Sith Lord who will, like, you know, kill you in 2 seconds, you know?
Yeah, I think his key line that he says is everyone has a weakness. You know, he says that over and over. Everyone has a weakness. And that's what really got me thinking that maybe he is more than he says he is, because he just seems to have this way about him where it's not just a bumbling, you know, acolyte who's just sort of learning things and trying to figure stuff out. You know, there's more to him. And when I realized that name, Chimera, just sounds so much like chimera. Yeah. Something that's wished for, hoped for, but is actually an illusion, right? It's impossible to achieve. I just thought about, you know, maybe he's the one he knows that she needs this feeling of justice, right? This feeling of satisfaction that things are done, you know, that part of my life is, you know, sealed off and I can move on. But this way of going about it is just, you're never going to get that, you know?
Yeah. Something about, he creeped me out when he said to her, when they switched places, or well, when Osha came in pretending to be May, and, you know, he's kind of going along with it. And then he just has that line where he just looks at her and he's like, you look just like her, you know, and just was totally like, he saw through that, but that, you know, you weren't, or at least I wasn't seeing that coming right away, you know, and then, but there he is, you know, because he is such a bumbling character. But then there's like little moments like that where it's like, I don't know. And I don't know about you guys.
The bumbling mask a little.
Yeah. And I've been trying to, like, they have not shown much at all, and they've shown him far away. I really get the impression whoever is in that costume is not very big stature. Like, they don't, they don't look big, like, they don't look tall, they don't look really, like, imposing to me. They look like they're smaller frame, whoever it is. It's just something about it seemed, you know, and again, they're quick shots, and I just thought, like, I don't know how tall he is or anything, but he's a little on the leaner side, too, so that might be, I don't know.
And we've got to talk about, okay, so he gives May a poison to use on Torben, and he says to her that, you know, everyone has a weakness, and he's like, go ahead, Robert. I'm pretty sure you were going to say.
May gives him the poison.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then he puts it into the drinkable form, but she's the one who has the poison and provides it to him, and
right.
And it's apparently a poison from her homeworld, right? So,
but he says, like, you have to offer him something that no one else can offer him, and that's absolution.
Yeah.
Another Catholic thing.
That's right. Yeah, we have this very odd kind of, like, reverse awful confession scene where he essentially, like, to use a classical reference, he drinks hemlock and kills himself, you know, like he goes the way of, like, a Stoic philosopher or something, you know, like, I'm like, whoa, okay, Jedi suicide. We have not seen that before.
Yeah, he says, forgive me, we thought we were doing the right thing. And man, that just makes you wonder, what was it that they did?
What happened? Yeah.
Well, see,
this is a big mystery of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had something to do with the fire, which of course opens up a Billy Joel parody, but we're not going to go there. it's only a matter of time. So like all the Jedi like pointing, we didn't start the fire. No.
That's so weird because I heard that song on the radio this morning coming back from Mass.
Well, the thing is, it's just a list of all kinds of events from the 20th century, so you could make a parody of that with Star Wars. I'm sure somebody's already done it.
Someone needs, if it hasn't been done already,
yeah, I'll get to work on it.
Only the good die young.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many connections. Oh my gosh.
It's actually a Billy Joel show.
Oh my gosh.
No, but it could also have something to do with like cover up or the bureaucracy of it was the other thing. Soul says that he made peace with what happened and also that he tried to save May, like he wanted to save both of them. So, obviously he tried to do the right thing. But it also makes you wonder, did he have a part in the fire or something else to have to do with May? And did they know that May was Force sensitive at the time?
Well, did you guys know? I thought it was weird because he said, when they're on the ship, he says that she had a twin, and Yord catches on because like he jumps to the whole like, well, maybe it's a twin and maybe it isn't Osha, but Soul very quickly shoots it down and says, I saw her die.
Right.
Like he very clearly is like, no, it couldn't be. Like he shuts it down right away. But then even at the end of that scene, you see him looking a little like, huh. And then it comes around pretty quick, and then he's on board with, okay, yeah, no, it's May. But there doesn't
Remember what Thrawn says, death and resurrection are common deceptions played out by the Jedi.
Did they know that May was Force sensitive because she wasn't even on the file for Osha? If it wasn't even on the file that Osha had a twin sister at all, then why would they hide, why would they hide the fire, but then why would they also hide the sister?
Well, it almost reminds me of like Camino, like erased from the files and all that stuff. If an item does not appear on our records, it does not exist. And I'm like, that culture had to come from somewhere. That bureaucratic, just, I only go by what the files say. Culture had to come from somewhere. And, we're this is before Phantom Menace, so we're leading up to that.
Well, and earlier in the episode, we were talking about how one of the things we loved was that it's kind of showing the beauty and the nobility of the Jedi in a way we haven't seen. But it's not shying away from the problematic issues of the Jedi as an institution and their role in the culture of Star Wars. And I really like the way it's showing both. It's showing here is this really noble ideal that a lot of people are striving for, and yet these are for lack of a better term, these are fallen people who cannot reach that ideal, certainly not by their own power, and they don't always take advantage of the grace that's given them, and they fall short of that ideal all the time, and bad things happen both on an individual basis and on an institutional basis when they lose faith in Star Wars, in the Force, and in the church when we lose faith in Christ.
Right. It's like Paul says, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
Yeah.
So we have the, we live in a world where, we have these ideals, whether they're religious or political or social, and we don't always meet them, but sometimes tragically, but there's still good people trying to work towards that as best they can,
And yet there are people who are deeply harmed, like May, and you can,
and Osha.
I mean, I think this show is a little bit beginning to explore how someone like Anakin can say, well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, which in the prequels, there wasn't enough, I think, context built out, but I think this show is showing some of that context and where that perspective can come from.
It's a lack of being willing to say we messed up, right? I mean, even from the very beginning of the very first episode of Vernestra saying, hey, if people find out about this, they're going to use it against us.
Oh, and he's like, our political enemies will exploit us. I'm like,
so
no!
It's like, well, we can't let this get out, so we're going to have to cover it up, right? So you with me here? It's really at the very beginning of the story. So it's all about how when we are in these institutions, there's always that temptation to save face or to be humble and own up to our faults.
Yeah, it's the very definition of letting fear cloud your judgments.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my notes is that, like, I noticed that too, Angela. And I'm like, from the beginning of the series, like almost like a few minutes into the episode, I wrote down the dark side clouds everything.
Yes.
That, it clouds people's judgment. I could just feel, even in the scenes with the Jedi, this kind of lingering sense of dark corners. That, that the dark side is starting to creep back in, in the edges of the frame. And yeah, it's unsettling.
As it should be.
Mm-hmm. And yet it doesn't take away from the nobility of the ideal that the Jedi are striving for, which I that's one of the things I really love about the show is how well it captures that both and of noble and yet fallen.
Yeah, and they get from Kymir kind of the information they need, and he disappears for a bit, but they lay essentially like a sting to try and get May, and Sol wants to leave Osha out of it completely, and it's just going to be him. I liked when Jecki kind of shoots down Jord's version of the plan and is like, oh, we could, because he wants to go in and I will confront this imposter. And she's like, or we could do it this way, like when they're initially gonna.
She's like, they're twins.
They're twins, yeah.
Let's use this.
Yeah. Later, when May returns and they have Sol confront her, that was just they blew it out of the water, that scene. I thought that was great.
Well, and I don't know how much he knew about the specifics of, like, I don't know what reports came back from, Indira dying, and did I say that right? Is it Indira?
Indara,
Indara, I think.
I'm thinking of again like Indira Gandhi. No, so Indara, yeah. Which, by the way, I'm sure somebody at some point, whether or not it was Carrie-Anne Moss, somebody did the Matrix joke of, like, in the fight, like, are we going to go up and do the Mantis, like, 360, Matrix thing? No.
Yeah.
You can almost imagine if May had anyone with her, they're back at the ship, like, just confidently saying, yeah, they're going up to get her now. Like, no. Your people are already dead. And they're like, too many Matrix crossover. But back to Indara. I don't know. Like, is Sol just like? I'm sure he's just super awesome, and he's got his own sort of like vigilance and awareness in a fight. But he really looks for those knives, right? Like, he specifically, So I'm sure there was some sort of report that came back about the circumstances of her death, and like, hey. Daggers were involved, so that was kind of a neat thought I had. It was like, I wonder if he did a little, just his homework, ahead of time. And he just very confidently just lifts him up and drops him off. Like, that was just,
as soon as he did that, I was like,
yes,
that was just perfect.
And they kept like doing the slow-mo, and like, she really tries to go for the lightsabers, and they're really good about like, no. Yep. But not pulling it out either. Like, that's just so cool. And we're going to get plenty of lightsabers, but I think that's a neat recurring thing in those few episodes of, I don't immediately whip out the laser sword.
Right, yeah, because I feel like especially in A New Hope and some of the other original trilogies, there was really this idea that, like, the Jedi only used their lightsaber when they absolutely had to.
Well, I thought it was interesting that she was clearly going for the lightsaber in fighting the Jedi, but when Indara was dead on the floor, she left the lightsaber behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's something complex going on here, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. And I like the mystery. This is good mystery. It feels like good mystery, not like plot hole. So
yeah. Well, like Thomas, you said the pacing. You know, I think Thomas or Robin said that was just because it hasn't always been that great with some of the other shows where it's like, oh, I love it. I like it at least. It's Star Wars, but this is just it doesn't need any sort of, you don't have to explain it or make an excuse for like, well, maybe there's something, maybe the pacing's not really terrible, and I'm just no, this is really good. I think it fits.
I liked May's escape option with just creating a cloud of dust to cover her. I'm like, oh, she did the Batman thing with the smoke grenade.
That's very martial arts movies.
I was thinking Ninja Turtles.
That was my brother always used to joke about that like, in high school, like, like if you ever, like he actually did some research once trying to find out where he could get ninja like smoke pellets. Cause he's like, can you imagine like no matter what awkward situation you find yourself in, you do that. That's what they remember. Like whatever it was, you're in trouble over grades. Some girl turned you down for the prom and you're just out, like, it's like, yes, that's absolutely, it's always cool.
I'll send you a link. There's a how-to instruction on how to make it. Is that right? Yeah.
But yeah, like, and Osha's listening in through Pip, I think, where she hacks into their comm signal. And so she tries to confront May herself when May makes her getaway, but she fails to stun her.
I think she might have intentionally failed to.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe it was unconsciously she missed.
Did that too. Yeah. I liked the old style stun weapon. It creates the stun ring, but it's its own unique weapon. Like, I feel like that function hasn't been integrated into blasters yet, because this is an earlier period in the timeline. So you get your own dedicated stun thing, and it looks like it looks clunky and old, like, and it should, this is a bit earlier in the timeline. But May then confronts Kyron and was like, you sold me out, you talked to the Jedi and all that stuff, but he's got information on where her next target is, Kalnaka, the Wookiee Jedi, and we see a little bit of him, which is cool.
Yeah. Is it Jonas? Is that, I forget, is the J?
Jonas, I think.
Jonas. That's right. So Jonas is back.
Yeah.
Good for him.
As a kind of blonde-ish Wookiee.
And just, I love the, no holds barred, just like, the Wookiee roar, but then the added shock of a force pull.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, like, okay, I'm leaving. We're out of here. Wookiee was scary enough.
Like I'm so not used to the concept of Wookiee Jedi that like there was a little bit of cognitive dissonance there where I was like, Wookiees can't do that. I'm like, oh wait.
Well, he's not in his uniform either. And,
Yeah.
I mean, what's a Wookiee gonna wear?
Yeah.
In terms of other themes in this show, we've definitely got a theme of duality going on. Even in the episode title names.
Yes.
Duality of twins.
Deliberately saying, we're going to look at this from two certain points of view. We're going to look at everything from both sides, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, you have the first episode called Lost and Found. So I almost feel like, you could say May is lost because she's going down this wrong path, and Osha is found because she's been away from the Jedi for a while and they find her. And then you have revenge, justice, and Soul even has that conversation with Osha about, what do you really want, revenge or justice?
I think he actually tells her, you want revenge, and look at where that's led your sister. So yeah, but it's it's also forgiveness, right? What is forgiveness? Because it's
Yep.
Supposedly, May forgives Torben. What, by giving him poison to kill himself? No, that's not how forgiveness works. Sorry.
It's a kind of maybe restorative justice. It's like, it's balancing the scales in a sense, maybe, but it's not, there's no aspect of love or charity about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what is true forgiveness? What is true absolution? And yeah, like you can have May in a sense like fooling herself into thinking like, yeah, I've absolved this person, but it's like, no, you just killed them,
Yeah, and she actually did worse. Like killing someone is one thing, but to me, it's worse if you convince someone that they actually want to kill themselves. I mean, that's really dark.
Yeah.
That's very dark.
Yeah, that scene was extremely unsettling. And I'm like, man, if you convince someone to kill themselves, yeah, that's still murder. You could say, oh, I didn't touch them, But and I like how it still doesn't count towards her thing. Because she technically still, the poison can count as a weapon.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see how the Star Wars culture, the Jedi culture in particular, views suicide. Because in Christianity, of course, suicide is absolutely forbidden. Because it's denying the gift of life that God has given us. But in lots of cultures around the world, including many of the East Asian cultures,
like samurai, I'm thinking, for example,
there's a notion of an honorable suicide,
right.
And I wonder if that's something that is part of the Jedi culture, maybe,
and in Greco-Roman culture.
To
take poison and kill yourself when you was considered by the Stoic philosophers to be like an honorable death. If like, is
that how Seneca
in certain
went?
Circumstances.
Seneca,
Seneca, he did not take poison though.
Well, Socrates did, of course, but that was his,
he was coerced.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Seneca suffocated himself to death in the bath.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. After trying to cut himself and it didn't work.
Yikes.
Well, so some people are speculating that Indara sort of knew that she was going to go, but that she went in a noble way of like, oh, well, I know that if you throw that dagger, she looked over and saw the barkeeper as like, oh, you're going to throw that dagger and I have to save him, right? So it was almost like going out in a noble sense. But
that's how I took that.
That's the sacrifice. I mean, because that comes up like in military scenarios and stuff, right? With the whole like the famous jumping on the grenade thing. And the best way I ever heard that explained was, it's anyone who has ever jumped on a grenade would be delighted if it didn't go off. Like it's not. There's absolutely nothing about it that's a desire, to end yourself. Like, and then that there is this fundamental difference between being willing to trade your life for someone else, and that's right at the core of the gospel, of course, right? But as opposed to directly attacking in any kind of way your own dignity and that sort of thing. And I think that's, but that's an interesting question. Yeah, Robert, I'm curious about that because I don't think that's come up.
But I guess what they're saying is, did she want to? Did she want to go? Because she had that guilt or.
Right. I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Yes, I gotcha.
That's the question.
I'm tracking out. Yeah, because we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. Yeah.
I guess we'll just have to watch more episodes of this show.
I guess so. Yeah.
Too bad there's only 2 episodes of this whole series. No. Oh wait. No.
But like you say, Robert, I like the mystery. I think they've done a good job of creating that kind of of just hooking you, of getting, because now all 4 of us want to know what's going on, what happens, and I think that's with a whole new cast of Star Wars characters, and I think that's the mark of very effective writing. The writing team is to really be commended for pulling this off.
Well, I think some of these shows, because they're usually like 8 episodes or so, and I think a lot of them, maybe more of a slow burn or something. I feel like this one distinguishes itself at I feel like we still have most of it hasn't been revealed at all yet, but I feel like more into it 2 episodes in than maybe I was for a lot of other series 2 episodes in.
Yeah. I agree.
Or even in Obi-Wan, which I loved. It's like episode 4 or 5. You're like, we're running out of time. Like, what are we going to do here? So, but I don't think that's so far. That doesn't seem to worry, I'm not worried about that with this one.
We've talked about the pacing, and I think that's a lot of it. I mean, I think they have given us enough information about the characters and the situation and the beginnings of the mystery, why we don't know the ends of the mystery already. These are real mysteries to the characters themselves.
Right.
So I think that's, like you said, it's effective writing and good hooks. Now, it's an 8-episode series, and a lot of the Disney shows have slumped in the middle. And so it's possible this one, it's 2 episodes is, it's a strong sign, but it could still have some weak moments. But I am more optimistic than I was before watching them. I'm like, oh, this has the possibility to be a truly great Star Wars series, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we could talk about this all night, but I just wanted to did we miss any major themes, major points that you guys still want to touch on before we begin to wrap?
It's funny up? You say major themes. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the music, which, and I'm not really familiar. I brought it up here. Is it Michael Abels? He's basically scored a lot of Jordan Peele's stuff. It's cool. What was it? I just lost it here. I had it here. Was it Get Out and Nope, Us? And a lot of recent stuff too. And I don't see a whole lot. I don't know a whole lot about his background, but I before I knew anything about it, I didn't know who did any of the music. There were just a few moments in the first episode where I really it felt very reminiscent, while not being just kind of trying to mimic too much, I think, over the top John Williams or anything. It's not so much that it was I don't know. I felt like it was some of the best Star Wars music I think so far that didn't feel too kind of totally different. I love the stuff from Mandalorian, but that's very different, And then some of the stuff like Andor, I thought the music from Andor sometimes just came across a little too stock. Or there wasn't anything really about some of the music in Andor. There were moments in Andor that just I felt I feel like this could be in almost any action movie. There was something about this. It felt unique. It felt different. There were some really neat kind of string flourishes and stuff that raised tension in a really kind of a classic kind of way. I just thought I want to learn more about it. I'm going to pay more attention to the music.
Kind of similarly, one of the things that really added to the feeling like Star Wars-ness of this show, two things. The costume design was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the ship design, I really enjoyed all the new ships that were introduced.
Yeah.
And it's just, it captured that Star Wars feel. So, hey, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything else major. Just looking forward to more.
Yeah, same. Whereas I like I said at the top, I was very worried going in because none of the trailers really grabbed me. And I kind of stayed away from behind the scenes hype train stuff. So I didn't get on any of that. And I was just worried like I said, I've read a few of the High Republic novels, but I really kind of fell off those. And I was just like, am I really going to like this? And no, I love it. This is great. I think that the whole sort of mystery aspect really draws you in. And like I said, I'm just astounded that they've managed to get me to be so interested in a completely new cast of characters. They didn't even do the easy thing they could have done and have a Yoda cameo because he's alive in this time period,
Sure.
They didn't go for the easy thing to hook people in.
I heard somewhere, I don't know how official it was, but I did hear somewhere that that's not going to happen, or that somebody confirmed that they're specifically not. And I was like,
we do have a green balding character, though.
That's true.
Yes.
They should do a scene where she's like eating or something, and you see like something that looks like the ears, and there's just like leaves behind her, and she turns, and it's like, no, that's cold.
Oh. But yeah, we want to hear from you, our listeners. What did you guys think of these first 2 episodes of The Acolyte? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com, or you can hit us up on our social media pages, or you can leave a comment on our YouTube channel or on the StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. But before we go, we would like to especially thank our patrons, including Heather C., Kevin G., Brandon P., Colleen R., and James B. Their generous donations help us to continue to create the secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at sqpn.com/give. So until next time, Robert King, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
And Mike Creavey, thank you as well.
Oh, my pleasure.
And Angela Sealana, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody.
I'm Thomas Salerno. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Star Trek. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/StarTrek.